angle. Joining me now is Mike Davis, founder and president of the Article 3 Project, and David Schoen, former Trump impeachment lawyer. Mike, I'm watching Larry Tribe in our angle. Larry Tribe, who is basically the inventor of the novel, controversial legal theory that gets shot down left and right. And now that's apparently a federal crime.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that objecting to elections was a felony in the United States of America. At least it wasn't in 1968, 2000, 2004, and 2016 when Democrats objected to...
Or Stacey Abrams.
Or Stacey Abrams. I mean, it's just unreal what Merrick Garland and Jack Smith are doing here. They're leading America into a very, very dangerous place.
David, it was easy kind of yesterday to kind of just, well, this is just ridiculous and throw up your hands. This is typical. But the more I thought of it, when I really played it out in my mind, 10, 15 years from now, this puts us on a collision course with the real rule of law and the equal application of justice, the principles that really are the bedrock of our country.
Laura, I hope that people will play your monologue today over and over and over again, because you hit on the key points. For me, as a criminal and civil rights lawyer for a long time, criminal defense lawyer and a civil rights lawyer for a long time, and I also do a lot of election, Voting Rights Act and ballot access work. ACLU hired me to represent the Alabama citizen in Shelby County versus Holder, and so on. I take these things very seriously. This indictment is written for public consumption and to try to get before a D.C. jury, and for political reasons and no other reason. How dare they criminalize, as you say, disagreements over election practices? The election laws in this country are in array for a number of reasons. One of the leading and most respected election law experts in the country has said, and certainly not a Trump supporter, over and over again, the Electoral Count Act is impossible to understand, and that anyone who believes they really understand what the vice president's role was with respect to the Electoral Count Act doesn't know what they're talking about. You can be sure, and a defense to this case will be, President Trump believed and believes in his heart and soul that the election was stolen from him and from the 75 million people or more who voted for him, and that he had an obligation to stand up for it. But you could also believe for sure that he was advised every step of the way by people he understood to be experts. And that's at the heart of trying to criminalize something like this. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, conflicting legal opinions. This is just, because that never happens in Washington, where one side argues one thing and the other side argues the other. Mike, CNN thinks it can basically nullify Trump's First Amendment rights by framing the whole thing as the need to root out corruption. Watch this.
He's tried to corrupt the institutions of government. He tried to do that through trying to corrupt the institution of the Justice Department, to try to get the Justice Department to take official actions, tried to get state legislatures to take actual actions, and tried to use the authority of the institution of the Vice President of the United States.
Mike, what's the reasoning? What's the legal precedent for the, quote, corruption argument?
That is a very good question, Laura. Jack Smith is a political hitman sent in to take out Republican presidential candidates, like he did with Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell back before 2016. He was overturned unanimously by the Supreme Court 8-0. It would have been 9-0, but Justice Scalia passed away. It is very hard, as you know, to get overturned, a criminal conviction overturned. He did it unanimously. So that's where this is heading. Again, the problem is the Supreme Court probably will not take this case before the 2024 presidential election.
David, Mike Pence, of course, who is key to the prosecution here, he chimed in today on this indictment. Watch.
I can't assess whether or not the government has the evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt what they assert in the indictment. I want people to know that I had no right to overturn the election. Sadly, the president was surrounded by a group of crackpot lawyers that kept telling him what his itching ears wanted to hear. Look, our country is more important than any one man.
Your reaction to that?
Well, I think Mike Pence has made clear that he doesn't believe that there was a criminal act committed either. And that's the fundamental heart of this. We've charged here a criminal offenses. That's an abuse of the system. That's not how we operate. Again, when laws are in disarray like these are, one can't have notice of what would be criminal conduct in this case. Again, people may disagree with his methodology, but he tried to go through. What's clear is he tried to go through the legal mechanism he understood applied. You can be sure Donald Trump didn't come up with the idea about the obligations of electors and whether there could be alternative electors and so on. Do you think Donald Trump was fundamentally aware of the idea 29 states plus the District of Columbia bind their electors to the popular vote?
Yeah.
Other states don't? Come on.
Well, I thought it was
relied
to
on
tell it.
experts.
Yeah, I think I'm not saying Pence bashed the Trump over the indictment, but I think what he was saying was, I don't know about intent, but I was right on the constitutional matter. Well, that's fine. He might think he's right. Trump might think he's right, but that's not a crime. So I think Mike Pence's comment helps Trump, oddly, in this. Do you agree with me on that?
I do agree, and I would also say this. Any Republican politician who thinks what Merrick Garland and Jack Smith are doing here is justified have disqualified themselves from elective office.
Mike Pence isn't going anywhere. What is he, single digit? He might not even make the debate stage. Mike and David, thank you both.